influential, people of the distillery over the years. This first one, of course, is Colonel E.H. Taylor. He was the guy that really expanded our distillery and put us on the map. And then George T. Stagg came along and kind of bailed him out financially and invested a lot of money on the distillery and really expanded the distillery, and were able to expand our footprint. And then William LaRue Weller is a very important person also, because that's one of our big labels, and we're making a lot of wheated bourbon these days. So he was a pillar in the industry. And of course, most people know the Pappy Van Winkle story, and that's our Halo bourbon, and we're very proud to offer that up in small quantities to people. And he's a big contributor to the industry. And then Albert B. Blanton, very influential guy at our distillery, because he really started the single barrel process and put a lot of emphasis on the quality of spirit at our distillery. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, on the row here, we've got Elmer T. Lee. And Elmer came to the distillery right after World War II, 1949. He came in, and funny story about that is Albert hired Elmer. And the funny story is Elmer went in to apply for the job, and Albert said, "I'm sorry, Elmer, we don't have any jobs for you. We're all full." So Elmer went home, and he got a phone call a little later that night from Orville Shupp. He was the plant manager at the time, and said, "Don't you worry about Elmer. Don't you worry about Albert, Elmer. Come on to work tomorrow." And the rest is history. He ended up working all the way up until 1993 when he passed away, and did a lot of promotional work for us, and a very influential guy. So today we're lucky enough to put together a little tasting of Elmer T. Lee single barrel bourbon, and we'll show you a little bit about some of the bourbons and talk about it.
Great. Yeah, one thing I noticed, Harlen, you may have misspoke there. I think it was 2013. Yeah, you said 93. So before we get a bunch of comments,
yes, 2013. Sorry.
Right. No, all good. I'm going to slide around behind the bar here.
Okay.
And yeah, we've got a heck of an assortment here to talk about and taste one or two. So
yeah, with Elmer, we figured out early on. We as a distillery figured out early on it's a good idea, and he had his own type of bourbons that he liked. He was the key influential person on creating the world's first single barrel bourbon, which was Blanton's in 1984. He was the guy that hit the pavement, talked about it, and went out and marketed single barrel bourbon. And at the time when he was doing that in 1984, no one had ever heard of single barrel bourbon or high quality bourbon. And he used to say, "We're going to charge $25 a bottle for this bourbon." And everybody he talked to would say, "You're crazy. Nobody's going to ever pay $25 for a bottle of bourbon." So, and we all know that every distillery across the country now is offering single barrel bourbon. So what better way to pay tribute to the person that did all this work and did a lot of work for our distillery, and to create a single barrel bourbon for Elmer T. Lee, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. The first offering was in a black bottle, 750 black bottle. This was 107. I believe it was a 90 proof also, but that was really nice. But as things have progressed, and I remember this bottle, but as things have progressed, we figured out that people want to see the liquid. People want to see what the bourbon looks like. So we offered up a different version with a clear bottle, and that went on for several years. But the one thing that stayed the same is the recipe and the juice and the age and general locations in the warehouse. We knew Elmer would prefer upper floors. He liked a lot of flavor, a lot of spice. And so we went with about a 9-year-old bourbon, and then a little bit higher floors in the warehouse. We did some special bottlings for Elmer over the years. We did a commemorative bottle for when he passed, as you say, in 2013.
Yeah.
And then we did a birthday bourbon for Elmer when he was set to be 100 years old. So we did a 100th 100-year anniversary bottle.
And I believe that, 1919, so that was released last year, the 100 year.
Yeah, and so we've just had some fun with it. And
2019.
really good bourbons. It's a rye bourbon. And in our family of bourbons, we try to offer a lot of variety in everything we do. So rye bourbon, wheat bourbon, single barrel, small batch, 10-year-old, all the way up to 23 plus. And the whole idea is to offer a variety and a variety of tastes. But this one is our mid-range rye bourbon. And we distill it at a little bit lower proof. So we want that flavor to be there. And then we age it, like I said, anywhere, depends. So this recipe for this bottle is about a 9-year-old bourbon. So today we're going to taste some Elmer. 90 proof. We call that Kentucky proof.
Why Kentucky proof?
Well, that's just what we say because we're from Kentucky, right? But
Yeah.
really, the main idea, I think, is that, at 90 proof, you're getting enough strength, but yet not overpowering. It's not, we wanted a lot of flavor in the bourbon. And like I said, a 9-year-old mid-range rye bourbon. The one thing with the Elmer is, again, highly allocated, not too readily available. We bottle it 2 or 3 times a year and send it out once a year typically. But this one is something that you want to nose neat. And taste. But if it's a single barrel bourbon, generally people are going to drink it neat or on the rocks. Rarely it would be in a cocktail, but doable. And I poured 2, one for Elmer, right?
There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's great. So we do have. No, that's pretty awesome, Harlen. We have a question we have several questions, but we do have a question. You mentioned the mash bill, and Ryan Hughes on Facebook does ask, what mash bill is Elmer, and is it the same mash bill as, say, a Rock Hill Farms?
Well, one of the things we do with this mash bill, just like all of our mash bills, we offer several expressions from that mash bill. With this one, it is the same recipe as Rock Hill Farms, but the main difference is generally the age. With Rock Hill, it's probably a little younger, but Rock Hill Farms is also bottled in bond. So it's 100 proof, a little bit younger. Of course, single barrel, so you're going to get the nuances from those single barrels. So, and single barrel, the main difference between single barrel and generally other bourbons is the fact that you go into those warehouses and you taste each one of those barrels one at a time. Select those barrels if they meet our standard, and you take those barrels then and process that barrel by itself and bottle it by itself. So you're not mingling that with other barrels, and you're just really getting that profile from that single barrel. And so you're going to get some nuances from barrel to barrel, but generally what we try to do is be very consistent, deliver consistent flavor and similar, from barrel to barrel.
Yeah, it seems like that'd be something he would be really proud of. And, just thinking about this, is this something that he was involved with, or was this a release after he passed, or before?
Yeah, we started the releases. It was early '90s when we started that label, and we did it all, like I said, all the way up until he passed away. And the fun part about it was he was very, very involved, and he would come down. We would actually set up regular tastings with Elmer, and he would come at least every Monday. And we always joked around that Elmer was retired, but he worked Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, and Tuesday. So he would come down and talk to us about the trips and the promotions and all the things. And what I always liked doing was talking with Elmer, because the guy spent 50 plus years at the facility and the distillery, and he knew the distillery inside and out. So, what I always enjoyed was asking him questions about the distillery and, talking about, the progression of the distillery and as we've expanded. So we really adored Elmer and got a lot out of it. all the time. But he would taste every Monday and select those barrels that he liked to make sure that we were selecting as a team. We were selecting barrels that he agreed with along the way. So
how long do you think it took for him to start trusting, say, your palate and the team's palate? Did he ever let go of it there for a while? Or?
Well, you got to believe he did it toward the end there, because early on, I remember the days when we were tasting with Elmer, and that was the routine when it first was started, as we would taste with Elmer to make sure we were calibrated on what he was after and what he was looking for. And then over the years, we progressed, and we've got a pretty good team assembled to do the tasting, and we carried that through and being consistent.
I saw a really great question. I apologize. There's so many questions coming through, but it was something like, Ronald on Facebook asks, besides Blanton's, did he work on other expressions? He mentions the BTAC expressions, but outside of Blanton's and Elmer T. Lee, what was Elmer's biggest impact here over the 50-year span?
Well, again, he was really involved with the facility and the operations, and we were able to talk to him of our expansion plans and the things that we were doing at the time. So he was involved with every label and every spirit we were producing here, and we really drew on his history. Again, since right after World War II, 1949, he saw a lot of things. He remembers, and I remember the conversation when we used to have a spring line that fed the distillery, and before city water was even around. And he remembers when we cut the spring line off and brought in this newfangled city water.
Wow.
That was treated, and we think probably good quality water, right? But at the time, that spring water was untreated, and you just didn't know. But I remember talking to him about that, and he remembered that operation. So those were all the benefits. Back then we burned coal, and we did a lot of things a little differently, but it was really good learning for everybody at the distillery.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a resource that's. I know you've told me before. You knew what was going on. You knew it was special to have somebody like him around, and Gary and those guys. But somebody asked here, and I think it's a great question. Bill Taylor on Facebook asked, Harlen, what was the one thing Elmer taught you or told you that you will always remember? Is there something that's really stands out, a moment or a...
Yeah, something that always sticks with me, and it actually sticks with me with every person, is how that person makes you feel. You remember certain stories, and we had a lot of them. I spent a lot of personal time with Elmer, and we did kayak trips and canoe trips and fishing trips and golf and all kinds of things that we did on our free time, and I really got to know him personally on a personal level. But what I gathered from him is it was all about being he was a true Kentucky gentleman, and that's what his the way he carried himself and the stories that he told, and I just learned a lot from his character, and the way he worked through the distillery and showed the world a product that we make here in Frankfurt. Talk to me about how we promote the distillery and the products that we make. So I learned a lot of character things from Elmer.
No, that's great. And I know he was friends with most of the industry folks and go way back with a lot of the other distilleries and people like that. So he was definitely well connected. And again, we've got a lot of questions coming through. And I've had a few people ask, are you guys still making it and releasing it twice a year or once a year? But you're still making it.
Yeah, we got that question a lot after he passed, because people were concerned that we weren't going to make any more Elmer. And what I always told people, even back then, is we're more dedicated than ever to make sure we continue to make that and bring and continue to offer that legacy bourbon, in honor of Elmer himself. And we're more dedicated than ever to make sure that happens.
That's great. Yeah, that makes sense. Fred on Facebook does ask, if Elmer were alive today, what do you think he would be most impressed with at the distillery?
Well, I think about that a lot, because we have made a few changes. I mean, as we have expanded and grown, we've changed. One of the things we have done along the way is we have preserved the processes and the technology and the things that we've done, but we've just made them faster and bigger. So I would love to take Elmer and walk him through the cooker room and show him our new $40 million cookers and, you know, the technology involved to preserve that original technology is a one-of-a-kind thing. And I think he would be pretty impressed with it. I think, you know, of course, he was pre-computers. So seeing all the computers and all the things that we use to make sure our processes are consistent, I think he would be impressed with that.
Yeah, and
he was an engineer after all.
Right. No, he would. I think he'd be really impressed and to see the growth, and I'm sure you'd take a lot of pride in that. You know, I think about that expansion too, and just the amount of expansion the distillery is going through now to offer more whiskey. There's some questions about it. You know, how many more rick houses? You know, some of these general questions, but maybe just talk to us a little bit about the expansion and how much is going on for 2021.
Well, there's a few changes that we've had where, you know, prior to 1999 when we released Buffalo Trace, prior to 1999, we had limited recipes and limited, you know, offerings, and we've really expanded not only on size but, you know, offerings. So I think we're up to 14 different recipes now. We're growing every label that we have, and we're producing more barrels. We produced more barrels in 2020, even with COVID and all the restrictions that we've had. We produced more barrels in 2020 than the history of the distillery had ever even thought about making. So we're making more every year. All labels are expanding. We're barrel warehousing more every year. We're filling up a 58,000 barrel warehouse extra every 3 months. So we're just really putting the pedal to the metal on production, and while preserving the quality and consistency of a bourbon. That's the important part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got several. People love it. You know, they're saying Elmer's, it's such a great bourbon. It's just a little hard to find, but just like every label, more coming. You know, a little more of each brand's coming. So, you know, just for me, again, lots of great questions coming in, but I'm always just fascinated with the day-to-day. You know, just how Elmer conducted himself when you were here, and learning from him and Gary, and what were some of the things that was he a type of guy that really just take you under his wing and walk you around and teach you, or was it how, just maybe walk us through that?
He would come down. He would come down on a Monday and stop in, and he would bring. A lot of times he would be show and tell. You know, he personally made me a display to use when I'm on sales trips and things, and talks about, you know, the bourbons and what goes into the raw ingredients and all these things. He made that in his basement, and he would bring me little trinkets and things from the past, from the distillery, some of the old Shinley and Stag, you know, things that he would have, and, you know, over the years. And so it was always fun to talk to Elmer. We talked about you know, what our plans were, and we bounced it off of him and his ideas from the past. And we would always walk through the distillery and, you know, check it out. And he would offer up every area. He would offer up some stories. So that's a guy that, you know, we thought a lot of.
And you said you went kayaking and fishing.
We turned over a canoe one time.
Okay.
A long story. I nearly killed Elmer when I was, you know, younger. So that would have been a pretty good claim to fame, of course. But yeah, we would fish and golf. And I remember he would hit that one iron. He played with a one iron. He would hit that one iron about 200 yards down the middle, and he would get mad. And I'd say, "What's wrong with you, Elmer?" And he'd say, "I used to be able to hit it a lot farther than that." And that was when he was like 80 years old, you know. So he was very competitive, and, you know, we had a lot in common when it comes to that.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I've got people asking, like, man, we should just build a whole warehouse just for Elmer, and lots of other comments like that. But it's definitely a beloved brand by the viewers and some of our fans, and I hope that legacy of Elmer's kind of living up to it in that bottle, and I'm sure it is. But any other closing statements or last remarks about Elmer?
No, I'm glad we got to talk about it and, you know, taste our our Elmer single barrel, and like I said, I think that's something he'd be proud of, and happy to show to people. So if you get a chance, if you find it and get a chance to try it, please give it a try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even at your local bar, if you go in, find it, get a pour. Look at that. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Hey, thanks, Harlen. I know you're busy, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I appreciate it. And here's another peek at those older bottles back there from the archives. But all right, Harlen. Thanks for your time.